would see if we have a quorum. Please vote. You have a quorum.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you. We're going to try to take up and we're going to move through this docket fairly quickly. So first, we're going to take up Senator Donovan, which is one of our Senate resolutions. It's SJR 424. And Madam Clerk, we need to change commending to remembering. Is that accurate where it is in the resolution? Senator Norman moves, Senator Newman seconds that we change commemorating to remembering in SJR 424. All in favor of that, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. And now Senator Ruff moves, Senator Stewart seconds that we report SJR 424 as amended. All in favor of that, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And that, Delegate. Where is it? All right. We're going to take all these. We're going to take up Delegate Rodman. You have HJR 593. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to change commending to remembering because we don't think it's something we ought to commend. So Senator Norman moves and Senator Newman seconds that we make the same amendment in HJ 593, changing commemorating to remembering. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. All opposed, like sign, and that is amended. Senator Ruff moves, Senator Stewart seconds that we report HJR 593 as amended. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, like sign, and that is reported as well. So in order to get the most people out of here, we're going to take up the designating, so look at page 9 of your blue sheets. We're going to take up the designations, recognitions, and memorials in a block with the one exception. If anybody would like to pull one out, we will. So that is HJ 594, Delegate Carr's Safe Digging Month. HJ 595, Delegate Carr's 8/11 Day. HJ 599, Delegate Sickles commending the Capitals. HJ 603, Delegate Fowler's Enrolled Agent Week. HJ 613, Delegate Sickles Trench Safety Stand Down Week. HJ 617, Delegate McQuinn's Year of Reconciliation and Civility Week. HJ 630, Delegate Price's Silence Empowers Violence, Break the Code, Awareness to Action Week. HJ 646, Delegate Mullins First Responder Day being September 11. HJ 649, Delegate Ingram's Susanna Bowling Day. HJ 659, Taiwan Day, Delegate Moorfield's. HJ 690, Delegate Keem's completion of the first Transcontinental Railroad 150th anniversary. HJ 697, Delegate Corey's Correctional Officers Week. HJ 703, Delegate Fowler's Trusted Choice Independent Insurance Agent Week. HJ 705, Cameron Crowder Pediatric Care Awareness Day. HJ 716 needs a technical amendment. Is that, you have that? If you could, you can read it to us.
On line 9, after years, strike and insert a comma.
Okay.
Line 10, after mayor, insert comma, as a member of the House of Delegates representing the 89th House District for 5 years.
Senator Norman moves, Senator Reeves seconds those amendments. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. And that is amended commending the Honorable Dawn Sessoms Hester. Next is HJ 720, World Refugee Day, Delegate Rodmans. Then it's HJ 732, Delegate Aird's Tuskegee Airmen Commemoration Day. All right. Anybody wishing to remove any of those out of a block? If not, would somebody make a motion to, they asked not to take it up. So the motion is to report HJ 594, HJ 595, HJ 599, HJ 603, HJ 613, HJ 617, HJ 30, HJ 46, HJ 649, HJ 659, HJ 690, HJ 697, HJ 703, HJ 705, HJ 716 as amended, HJ 720, and HJ 732. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign, and those are reported. So if you're in that block, have a good rest of your day. All right. We work efficiently over here. We try to get things through. Delegate James, Conflict of Interest, HJ 1889. And this looks to be identical to Senator Howell's SB 1067. Motion's been made that HB 1889 be reported. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, open the roll.
I thank the committee.
Madam Clerk.
Oh, sorry.
Ayes 11, no 0.
Ayes 11, no 0. That's reported. Thank you for being here.
I thank the committee.
Delegate Coles, HJ 581. This is identical to SJ 276, Delegate Reeves' bill. Is there any? The motion is to report HJ 581. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign, and that is reported. HJ 655, Delegate McQuinn. She's not it. We had a similar legislation, Senator McClellan. The resolution verbiage was not consistent with how we standardize those resolved clauses. So Senator Norman moves, Senator Newman seconds that we conform HJ 655 to the language we used in SJ 297. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Now, is there a motion to report HJ 655 as conformed to SJ 297? Motion has been made to report the conformed substitute of HJ 655. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. All opposed, like sign, and that is reported. All right, Delegate Robinson, 1735.
Good morning, and thank
Page
you.
2 of your sheet.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Can I ask you a question before you get
Yes, ma'am.
too far?
Yes, sir. Excuse
Our
me.
notes indicated this is a $135,000 expenditure. Is it in the House budget?
It is in the House budget, because this is one of the things, this came out of the Select Committee on School Safety, because one of the things that we encountered was the huge need for studying on mental health in students. The problem is there's nothing uniform across the Commonwealth.
So if there's a motion to report, it would need to be referred to finance. So keep going.
So anyway, so you have, it's pretty self-explanatory of what the commission is set up to look at. I can read all those if you want me to, or if you want me to. It's to assess the efficacy of developing and implementing a statewide behavioral health and suicide prevention hotline. for the students is to review the current school counselor to student ratio and whether the realignment of counseling responsibility proposed by the committee helps counseling service for the students. It reviews the current roles and responsibility of school nurses, psychologists, social workers in schools, and determine whether a realignment of responsibilities could improve or streamline behavioral health services. And the commission will also evaluate the efficacy and cost of providing enhanced behavioral health services delivered through partnerships established through school divisions and local departments of social services and community service boards, and assess the effectiveness of de-escalation and other alternative disciplinary policies when interacting with students suffering from behavioral health. It will examine the value of additional teacher training requirements on student behavioral health, such as mental health first aid, other areas in that, and there is one amendment that we added as a request to Delegate Rasul.
Okay. There'll be one more that we'll have to take up to even the membership, but do you have the amendment that she's,
Mr. Chairman,
Mark?
line 31, gross after aid, semicolon, strike, and line 32 in gross after commission, insert semi and 8, assess the implementation of social and emotional learning in schools.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, go ahead. No, we got to take this up. Senator Norman moves, Senator Ruff seconds that amendment. Is there any discussion on that amendment? You're okay with that? Okay.
Yes.
All in favor of that amendment, please signify by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. That's agreed to. Senator Norman.
Mr. Chairman, I find the constitution of the commission objectionable, and I would move that there be 6 members of the House and 6 members of the Senate.
Senator Norman moves, Senator Newman seconds that the membership be equal to our equal representation of legislative bodies, 6 senators and 6 House members. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. That's agreed to.
And you will notice there is a sunset on this of July 1st, 2021.
Any member of the public wish to speak in favor of HB 1735?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'm Emily Griffey, Policy Director at Voices for Virginia's Children. We think this is an important step forward to look at tools that schools and communities can use to address student mental health, and we support
Thank
this
you for
effort.
being here.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Kathy Bircher with the Virginia Education Association, and we support the bill.
Thank you for being here. Anybody else wish to speak in favor of the bill? Anybody wish to speak in opposition to the bill? Any committee member wish to opine? Senator Newman.
I know that we're probably going to put the clause on and work it out, but Delegate, there is something in here that says you hire an executive director for $135,000 for 2 years. I just urge you to look at that as we potentially go into conference, that maybe it's not an executive director, maybe it's other resources, but we'll let you kind of work on that. But hire an executive director for 2 years is a little odd. So, yeah.
We'll take that into consideration.
All right. Is there a motion on HB 1735 as amended? The motion is to report HB 1735 and re-refer to finance. All in favor of that motion, please vote on the board.
Ayes 11, no 0.
Ayes 11, no 0, and that is reported and re-referred to finance, which is.
So would that be on finance this afternoon, or are you meeting again? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Delegate Yancey. All right. Okay. Okay. We'll go skip over it. Delegate Stolly. HJ 662, page 3 of your docket.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. HJ 662 directs the Joint Commission on Healthcare to perform a 2-year study that will review and evaluate laws and regulations governing the dispensing and administration of drugs and devices from a pharmacy collaborative practice agreement, standing orders, or protocols. We'll seek stakeholder input from Department of Health professionals, Medical Society of Virginia, and Virginia Pharmacy Association. The hope is that we'll be able to improve access to healthcare services across the Commonwealth. Happy to answer any questions.
Any member of the committee have any questions on 622? The commission has, Joint Healthcare Commission has advised that they can handle this. Is that? So, Mark, did we have to have a technical amendment on this to change title?
Mr. Chairman, yes. On line 7, after 2, insert prescriptions.
Okay. Senator Reeves moves, Senator Norman seconds the technical amendment to change or to add the word prescription so that the body matches the title. All in favor of that, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign, and that's agreed to. Is there somebody from the Joint Commission on Healthcare present? Green, thumbs up, down? Yeah. Okay, thumbs up. All right. Motion's been made and properly seconded that HJ 662 be reported as amended. All in favor of that, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign, and that is reported. We could go ahead and skip to page 6. HJ 626. Delegate Stolley, this is your last one, correct?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. HJ 626 just directs that the Virginia Department of Health will move to increase awareness of shingles and shingles prevention and report its progress out by the 2020 regular session. I'm happy to answer any questions on shingles or why we'd want to do this, Mr. Chairman.
Those of us who are getting in advanced years, this is pretty important to be aware of. My notes indicate Department of Health says they can absorb it within their current resources. Is that accurate? Anybody here from Department of Health?
Hi, I'm Laurie Forlano, Deputy Commissioner at the Health Department. That's accurate.
Okay, great. Is there a motion? Motion has been made to report HJ 626. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, like sign. That's reported. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
All right, HJ 677. Delegate Rush. Page 4 of your blue sheet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe there's some technical amendments.
You mean changing it to 10 senators and 1 delegate?
That's fine.
Okay. So do we have a substitute? Does this have? Okay. We're gonna, on your substitute, we're gonna, on the substitute, look at line 34. You're gonna cross out 7 and insert 5, and you're gonna have to change the legislative membership, aren't we? Change it to, on line 33, cross out 13, insert 12. Line 34, cross out 7, insert 6, and that is part of the substitute.
Yeah.
So Senator Wagner moves with the accurate, even legislative membership, the substitute. All in favor of that, please signify by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. The substitute's before you. Delegate Rush.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this study commission deals with blockchain technology. It's a growing technology. There are these companies throughout the state, probably in some of your districts. One of the largest players in this space is actually located in Blacksburg. They have 3 offices worldwide, one in Hong Kong, one in London, and one in Blacksburg. And so this is a growing technology that I think could really help propel some changes in the Virginia economy, and I'd like to get ahead of that.
All right. So this is on my list. This says, it might need to go to finance, but I don't know that it actually does. So we're going to report it. If it does need to go back to finance, we'll send it back.
Yep, and Mr. Chairman, I'll be there this afternoon.
Okay. So
For a couple
with
of
that,
bids.
does any members have any questions? Anybody in the public wish to opine on blockchain? All right, committee acts on motions. Motion is that HJ 677, in the nature of substitute with accurate Senate and House representation, be reported. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. All opposed, like sign, and that motion is agreed to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
All right, HB 2814, Delegate Moorfield. Going once. Yes. HB 2028, Delegate Campbell. Page 5 of your docket.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a new bill dealing with occupational regulations. Any legislative bill requiring the Department of Professional and Occupational Regulation to increase or begin regulation filed during any session of the General Assembly, the Board for Professional and Occupational Regulation shall prepare an evaluation. The Department of Professional and Occupational Regulations has over the last 15 years recommended increases in regulations 11 times on businesses without evaluations by the Board of Professional and Occupational Regulations. The Board of Professional and Occupational Regulations during the same time period for 18 evaluations has recommended an increase in regulations only 4 times. This bill was recommended by J. Lark.
All right, according to my notes, that this will require the hiring of at least one additional person. Is that accurate? Is that what? No?
The speaker didn't explain that to me.
Okay. All right, our notes indicate that that would be the case. Is there anybody from DPOR here? Anybody from the administration here at all? Going once, going twice. Madam Clerk, do we also need to have any reports be submitted to the, okay. So Senator, right. Senator Reeves moves, Senator Norman seconds that the technical amendment that the evaluations also be sent to the Senate Clerk's office for distribution. All in favor of that, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. That's agreed to. Because nobody is here from the administration to say one way or the other about whether they can absorb that $131,000 it's going to need to go to finance. So if there's a motion to report, that's what needs to happen. Motion has been made to report House Bill 2028 as amended and re-refer to finance. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Vote on your board. Moving too quick.
Ayes 14, no 0.
Ayes 14, no 0, and that's reported and re-referred to finance. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Senate, Delegate Jones, in 2604 on page 5, Delegate Jones called and said that one is not yet ready for prime time, so we're going to skip over that one for now. Delegate Bagby, 2767. Delegate Bagby. All right. Delegate Knight, 1610.
I believe it's 610.
610, sorry.
Yes, sir.
HA 610 on page 6.
What this bill is a study. We have something very unique in southern Virginia Beach and southern Chesapeake with wind tides. You've got Pimlico, Albemarle, and Currituck Sounds, and you have Back Bay. And when the wind blows out of the south, pushes the water up, we could have as much as 3 or 4 foot differential in there. And when it pushes the water up, we get flooding issues. But knowing that we've got Falls Cape State Park down there with 4 miles of oceanfront, and then on the other outlet side, we've got Great Bridge Locks. It'd be nice to have a coordinated study with the City of Virginia Beach and maybe the state, and maybe the state could talk to the feds about getting us some relief. And I've got some ideas down there, but we kind of need to get everybody together on this.
So this indicates that it'll be a $500,000 expense.
I didn't see that.
That's what they said it would take to get started, but not to finish, which does not make a whole lot of sense to me, but that's what my note says.
Yeah, I hope your notes are wrong.
Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, I believe we need to send it to finance, and hopefully they can absorb that cost. It seems like there are magnitudes of studies, and they could do the free one, perhaps.
Okay, anybody in the audience wish to opine on HJ 610? Any member of the committee wish to opine? Senator Hanger moves that HJ 610 be reported and referred to the Committee on Finance. All in favor of that, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and that's reported and re-referred to Finance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Newman is asking that he has to go to another meeting, take up, is it 2168?
Yes.
HB 2168, page 3, it's Delegate Yancey's. We've contacted him, he's not here, but
Mr. Chairman,
time is running, so we're going to take it up.
Mr. Chairman, I have no opinion right now on whether we pass it, but if we do, there's a couple amendments to consider, sir.
Okay.
One, I'm sure that you will want to consider on line 26, the membership and equalization of that, and I'm sure you'll take that up in yours.
What Senator Newman moves that we equalize the membership on HB 2168, 6 members of the House, 6 members of the Senate. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and that's agreed to.
Mr. Chairman, the second one is on line 22, thereabouts, ensuring that we have a number 4 that states basically ensuring academic accountability. That was discussed when they had talked about bringing this over, and so I would move that we add a 4th item, which is ensuring academic accountability.
So Senator Newman moves and Senator Norman seconds that we
They put it in the bottom, they didn't put it in the top.
that we add the same language, ensuring high quality of what?
Ensuring academic accountability, right?
Ensuring academic accountability in line
22.
22. You got that? All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. All opposed, like sign, and that's agreed to.
Mr. Chairman,
Delegate Yancey, right in time. We're getting ready to address it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We fixed your oversight in having unequal membership with the Senate and the
You
House.
are very kind, Mr. Chairman.
We thought so. And we also added in item 4 in line 22, academic accountability.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Newman, any other?
Mr. Chairman, the other is that on line 32, there's a discussion that the Senate will appoint someone from a, quote, education foundation. I'm not sure exactly what that is, and with the delegates' concurrence, if we could just remove the limitation on education foundation on line 32.
So
Yes, Mr.
moved.
Chairman.
Motion's been made, properly seconded, that we leave the appointment but remove the requirement that they be from an education foundation. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign, and that's agreed to. So we've made 3 amendments: fixed your oversight, added in academic accountability, and eliminated the education foundation appointment requirement. Anything you would like to tell us?
Mr. Chairman, I think the bill speaks for itself, and I want to thank Senator Newman for his time in working with me on this important issue.
All right, Senator Newman, anything else you would like to add?
Not really. I think it's a very creative clause, but beyond that, I think basically we have to either fund it or the clerk has got to fund it through joint rules, which I've not seen that before, but that's what it says.
The Senate has to fund it?
But the joint rules from both, yeah.
The House clerk has to fund it.
The House budget. It
Okay,
says
so
the
the-
House and the
the-
Senate clerks. Okay, very good. Right.
Okay. So this would, the funding would come out of the House budget approved by the House. So the bill as amended is before you. Motion is, well, the finance says they want to take a look at it, so the motion has been made and properly seconded to reports 2168 and re-refer to the Committee on Finance. All in favor of that motion, please signify by voting on your board.
Hey, McDougal, aren't you sitting in between finance right there behind you?
That's how I know it
14,
has to
no,
go there.
0.
Ayes 14, no 0, and that's reported and re-referred to the Committee on Finance. And Delegate Yancey, you have HJ 641 on page 7.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, simply put, what this resolution is, as you may recall, a year ago, we'd passed legislation out of the House in regards to rainwater use for commercial properties. This comes from a constituent that I have in the city of Newport News who is using innovative technology to help mitigate some of the costs that he would have and utilizing a resource. What he does is he uses a rain capturing system at the top of his roof, and then he uses appropriate electronic systems that disinfects the water, and then he uses it only for commercial use, nothing else. And it's a automobile shop as well. He had run afoul of the city of Newport News in trying to negotiate with them in such a way that the non-potable water could be used. The legislature was in agreement that this is something that could ameliorate other businesses in the Commonwealth, and then we passed a law. What this resolution seeks to achieve is that the Department of Health and Go Green Automobile and other stakeholders are currently working on the regulations solely for the commercial use. The conversation has come up, what about potential new legislation in dealing with other forms that this water could seek to address? And is it something that we should address now, regulations, but especially on what kind of legislation the law would need to reflect? So all this resolution seeks to achieve is simply saying to the stakeholders who are now in negotiations, continue your conversations, take the next steps, look where we're going, how we're going to get there. Is there changes to the code? And if so, what do we need to address so that next year's session we can address it? The regulations, in essence, would be in place, and then it's a done deal, so to speak.
So if I understand, is anybody from the Department of Health here? My notes indicate that y'all have already convened a work group and that these items would line up with what's going on in that work group. The additional requirement is that y'all would have to report the findings of that work group back to the legislature. So where does that leave you? Are you okay?
Mr. Chairman, Alan Knapp with the Health Department, that is accurate.
Okay.
We're already doing what the bill says, and the additional requirement would be the report.
So you're okay with this? Don't need any additional money?
Not this
You're
time.
not going to get any. That's why, let me make that clear. So
No,
you can handle it without any additional
sir.
money. Okay. All right. Any members have any questions? Anybody else in the public wish to opine? Hearing none, Senator Norman moves, Senator Hanger seconds, HJ 641 be reported. All in favor of that, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign, that's reported. Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yancey.
Thank you, members.
Delegate Torian, HJ 674, page 7 of your blue sheets.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee. HJ 674 directs the Department of Veteran Services and Department of Taxation to do a feasibility study, joint study, work group to look at the feasibility of exempting military retirees' income from taxation. Under current law, military retirement income is tax exempt only for recipients of the Congressional Medal of Honor. The agencies are directed to consider potential revenue losses, the effect of phasing in exemptions over different time periods, the positive effects of Virginia's current population of veterans, and the impact of the Commonwealth's competitiveness as a desirable state of residence for veterans compared with other states. And that's what the study does.
Hold on one second. Luke, do you know how many individuals have received the Congressional Medal of Honor? I do not know. You might have a lifeline over to your,
I do not.
somebody from the department.
We do.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Carrie Ann, Policy Director for DVS. We don't actually keep track of that kind of information. We keep track of Virginians. We have only a handful of still living Medal of Honor recipients, but we don't track the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Are y'all able to undertake this review with no additional resources?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Okay, Sarah Sassoff.
Back in May of 1995, we had to meet a special session here to deal with the thing that the Supreme Court dealt with called the Harper case. And the reason, Victoria, we had to deal with that is we exempted, I think, the first $3,000 of state retirement income, but not federal. And the U.S. Supreme Court says you can do it for one, or you can do it for all. And we had a choice from either rebating several years worth of taxes, or exempting it for everybody. And of course, the expensive thing was to rebate to everybody, which we didn't. I think we decided to exempt the first 3,000 for both retirements, rather than just rebate it. That was the more expensive option, was to do it. It was to allow it for both federal and state. But this may run afoul of that. I mean, I don't know, but it seems to me that it puts us back in the same problem we might have had before.
I think, Senator, I think that the study will help us determine just which direction we should go in.
Okay. It's a study.
This is a study, and it would be by the Department of Veteran Services and Department of Tax.
Okay.
And a report back.
That's fine.
Any other members have any questions? Anybody else in the public wish to opine? Hearing
Be
none,
reported.
it's a motion that HJ 674 be reported. All in,
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Howe.
well, I would just like to point out, if we have the study, it's likely to set in motion that we need to do it. So we might want to think about that.
My guess is that the number could be significant.
Oh, I'll bet.
Mr. Chairman. Senator Norman.
Ma'am, do you have any idea how many military retirees there are in the Commonwealth of Virginia?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Norman, we do have a significant portion of military retirees in Virginia. 2 years ago, the Matrix Group and the Roosevelt Group did a study for VMAC on this and showed that if we exempted this retiree pay, it would blow a 30-year hole in the Virginia budget. The Joint Leadership Council respectfully heard that report and said we would like to move forward and ask the legislature to do this anyway. They went to Delegate Torian. This was a creative solution he came up to allow the state agencies to review the information and do a study. We will do a robust study, but our agencies follow the rule and the dictate of the General Assembly, and we anticipate coming to a similar conclusion as the Matrix Group.
Mr. Chairman.
Let me try again.
Senator Norman.
Do you know how many military retirees there are in the Commonwealth of Virginia?
There are over 100,000, and we are the only state currently growing. We are growing at a rate of roughly 1.33% per year.
Senator Reeves. And
That
Senator
just
Sassoff.
was going to be my comment, is we discussed this at the VMAC. I carried the bill 2 years ago, and the number was astronomical. So I don't know how we get away from that if we're still growing. If we started losing 1.32% of our retirees, then I would have greater concern.
Let me try another question.
Senator, well, Senator Sasslaw, then Senator Norman. Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you tell me how many other states currently have this in place?
There are only 9 states that do not have a full or partial exemption on some military retiree. We're one of the 9 states that have nothing.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Norman.
how many states have a full exclusion?
According to Senator Reeves, there are 3.
My understanding
Senator Wagner.
is that Texas and Florida don't have income taxes, period. So Tennessee is the only one that would treat differently, my understanding.
If the, Mr. Chairman.
Senator
did a quick
Sasslaw.
calculation, if the taxable income was average 20,000, and you just used, roughly I use 6%, it would be 120 million a year.
That's only about 22% of that Medicaid estimate that we missed.
Hear us out.
But we don't miss it every year.
Mr. Chairman.
That's the difference. You know.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hanger.
Thank you. I think information is always helpful in decision-making, so I would move that it be reported.
Second.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Norman.
I'm very sensitive to veterans and particularly considering my family's background. There is no way this General Assembly is going to enact a $120 million plus budget deficit on an annual basis. Not going to happen. And that's just a realism.
Mr. Chairman and committee, that may be the case, but I would encourage us and encourage your support for the study. I think the knowledge that we gain from that would be very beneficial to us as a Commonwealth. And the study certainly would not hurt, but would be a tremendous help.
All right, motion's been made to report HJ 674. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign, and that is reported. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you.
All right, Delegate Mullen. 1772.
Mr. Chair, good morning. So, Mr. Chair, this was a bill that I carried last year and then had a long, hot summer with the FOIA Council, and I would thank Senator Stewart as well as Senator Locke for being able to get this bill into the place that it needs to be. The idea is that we would have FOIA opinions be usable in court so that someone who is asking for a FOIA request or somebody who's responding to it can short-circuit the cost and time necessary to litigate a FOIA issue. This is benefiting both those who are requesting as those who are responding so that we can build up a body of law so that we don't have to keep relitigating the same FOIA issues over and over again. If something happened once in Botetourt, we don't have to do it again in Newport News. And so what this would just say is that we can build up a body of law that's published on the FOIA Council's website, much like what we have for legal ethics opinions for those attorneys who are currently in here. So, Mr. Chair, that is the bill.
Is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak on HB 1772?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Mark Hickman representing the Virginia Press Association, and we support the bill. We thank the delegate for carrying it, and we urge you to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, Megan Ryan with the Coalition for Open Government. We support the bill, and we think this gets us back to what the original purpose of the FOIA Council was when it was created in 2000. Thank you.
All right, any member of the committee have any questions or thoughts that they would like to share? Senator Stewart.
Mr. Chairman, we did work on this summer, and I think it was pretty well vetted by the folks, and I don't know if it was unanimous, but there was good support for it.
Darn close.
I'd move that we report the bill.
Motion's been made that HB 1772 be reported. Open the roll, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's always good to see you.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes 15, no 0. It was worth the wait.
Thank you.
So, Senator Norman, can you take over while I present SJ 418, which is right here on bottom page 8.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Senator McDougal, you have the appointments by the Senate Committee of Rules.
These are our appointments to the Virginia Conflict of Interest Ethics Advisory Committee. There's 2 reappointments and 1 new appointment, correct, Madam Clerk? The new appointment was former Senator, former Judge Trumbo. Oh. Okay. Oh, this is just Judge Stout. Okay. I'm ahead of our filing. So this is reappointing Judge Stout. And I would move that the resolution be agreed to.
Is there a second? It's been moved to second that Senate Joint Resolution 418 be agreed to. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, and SJ 418 is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we're going to go back. Delegate Bagby, page 6, 2767.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. Mr. Chair, HB 2767.
67, I apologize. It's on page 6 of your blue sheet.
Yeah, this bill establishes the Virginia African American Advisory Board to advise the governor regarding the development of economic, professional, cultural, educational, and governmental links between the Commonwealth and the African American community. The board will resemble that of the Virginia Asian Advisory Board and the Virginia Latino Advisory Boards established in 2001 and 2003, respectively. And it's as simple as crafting these, establishing these 2 boards.
Anybody in the public wish to express an opinion? Okay. Financially, do you know how the executive branch is going to pay for it? Did y'all have that conversation on the House side?
Yes, and I think it's going to be absorbed, but it's about $8,000 annually.
Okay. All right, this is an advisory board to the governor. It has no legislative members. It's only citizen members. Did you arrive at the 21 members? Was there specific?
Well, we wanted it to reflect what is already being done with the Asian and the Latino. And then they also pointed out some of the things that they had changed over time with the Asian and Latino, and we didn't want to step away too far from what's already been done.
Are their membership, each 21 on their?
I believe so. I'm not completely sure, but I believe so.
Jenny, do you know? Okay. How about, we're going to go ahead and move forward. If we find out that it's different, then there'll be a time to adjust that. But
Okay.
We'll move forward with that.
And whatever the number is currently, I think what the administration is hoping in the future, if those 2 aren't, I think they want to move them to these 221. And I'm sure as you all progress and before it goes to the floor, if there's any questions, I would say reach out to the Secretary of the Commonwealth and she'll provide some more feedback on that.
All right. Any member of the committee have any questions? Motion has been made and properly seconded that HB 2767 be reported. Open the roll, please.
Thank you,
Ayes
Mr. Chair.
15, no 0.
Thank you,
Ayes
Mr. Chair.
15,
members
no
of the committee.
0. That's reported. Thank you. Delegate Moorfield, page 4, HB 2814.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, good morning. We have House Bill 2814. I was carrying this bill for Delegate Mieres. The bill just extends the sunset provision for the Commission on Economic Opportunity for Virginians in Aspiring and Diverse Communities from July 1st, 2019 to July 1st, 2021.
You got a choice.
Yes.
We can put the clause on it, or I can send you to finance this afternoon. Well, they'll put the clause on it.
It's your discretion, and
Well,
I'll relate the message to Delegate Mieres, Mr. Chairman.
I like giving people choices. So you can either take the clause now or come back and visit with us this afternoon and take the clause then.
Mr. Chairman, I think I'll choose the second option.
You want to go finance, okay. We like giving people choices, so
Well, I mean, if there are several members who are members of the Finance Committee, so if I think if there's a general consensus, this bill's going somewhere, then I'll be amenable for option number one.
I move that the clause be put on his bill for him.
Senator Stanley moves, Senator Hanger seconds that the clause be added to HB 2814. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Senator Stanley moves, Senator Hanger seconds that HB 2814 be reported with the clause. All in favor of that, please go to the board.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes 15, no 0. And if the final budget, not just the one introduced in the House, comes through with the funding, then the clause can come off.
Thank you, Mr.
So,
Chairman. We'll hash those out in negotiation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Delegate Keen, we saved the best for last.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Clerk, members of the committee. I know some of you might be familiar with this
That's because we
resolution.
believe in capitalism over here.
Oh. House Joint 687, Mr. Chairman, is, I know, Mr. Chairman, you're familiar with this. This is basically, all of this is a study.
Page 8 on your blue sheet.
We're asking the Office of Executive Secretary of the Supreme Court to study the option of having a tax court in Virginia. And Mr. Chairman, just to explain, as some of you might recall, we've had bills in the past. In the last 10 years, I've been in this General Assembly on the Finance Committee. We've seen bills come up year after year after year where we try to create some kind of consistency when taxpayers, rural property owners, commercial property owners, when they bring appeals up towards their assessments, we find that there are some inconsistencies in the way different courts are handling it. And so last year, I had 2 bills that came out of the House unanimously that dealt with trying to come up with some consistencies. Unfortunately, because of some opposition from the local governments, we ended up not moving forward with that bill. I spent a year working with them and all the stakeholders to see if there's some common ground. And the one area that we all thought would be a good idea for us to explore is the idea of having a tax court. So all this bill does is simply just ask the Supreme Court's executive office if they would just study it and come back with some options. So they're not creating any tax courts. We're just asking them to study it. And on the fiscal impact of it, Ms. Wright from the Office of Executive Secretary told us during the House proceedings that there's no fiscal impact. They can accommodate this with existing resources. They don't have a position per se, but they said there is no fiscal impact. And that's all it is. And Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of folks that would be happy to speak if you have time.
The question I have, and I think through the conversations with some of your witnesses and some of the members of the committee, there does seem to be a genuine need to have a review of how we're moving from an assessment through the Board of Equalization to a final determination.
Yes, sir.
My concern that I've expressed to them is whether the Office of the Executive Secretary is the right place to have that review. Because right now, I know in Northern Virginia, y'all have a lot of judges in a particular jurisdiction.
Yes,
but in a lot of the places that I represent, there is one judge that visits twice a month.
Yes, sir.
So the ability to set up a tax court with one judge that visits twice a month is not feasible. So the question is this not better done as a 3 maybe members of courts or finance on the Senate side and 3 members of courts or appropriation on the House side, and we try to come up with a situation and we invite the commissioners and somebody from the Board of Zoning Appeals organization and the executive secretary to come in and help work through it. Is that not a better way to come up with a solution?
Mr. Chair, I'd answer your question, which is I think is a really good one, is how it gets done is really a matter of our preference. the fact that we would like to get some information, I think, is helpful. One of the reasons why we thought the executive secretary might make sense is because as an independent branch that oversees all of the judicial branch, they have a better sense of the caseload, the workload, which courts, to your point, which courts have some backlog and lack of judges, which courts are better equipped. And also, as you might know, the city of Richmond has a circuit court here that's kind of, at this stage, kind of a de facto tax court in that they have some experiences because they deal with a lot of appeals. And so they might be able to rely on some of those judges. And the other point, Mr. Chairman, is that we'd like to see what other states are doing. I know in Maryland, for example, they do have a state-level tax court. They, of course, have a different system, but they at least have some model. So to the extent that we can find some folks that can reach out to other states, whether it's through NCSL or other organizations that have studied this and come back with some best practices, whether we could do it in-house or whether we can do it throughout. I'm not really sure what the best answer is, but I would just like to have as much robust information in front of us so that next year, if we're willing to look at some legislation, we'd have as much robust information in front of us. That's really the chance there.
So I think we all share the concern that you have about these, and Senator Openshaw, if you wanted to say something.
Yeah.
The question is going to be,
Sure.
what's the best way for us to get there?
Mr.
Senator
Chairman,
Openshaw.
and I'm not serving on any committee. I prefer second guessing the work of committees, and I'll do that next year. But I will tell you that the delegate's right, and frankly, I would hope that whatever committee is put together looks at the broader issue. This area is ridiculously complicated, and the courts have done their best to try and interpret the law that we've given them with respect to assessment appeals, but it's absurd. And no normal person could possibly ever prevail in an appeal of an assessment if they took it to court. I mean, it's ridiculous, and we've got to do something. And
So Reeves, and then we'll go let the public speak.
I was just going to, some friendly advice to the delegate is, many of you know I tried to get a veterans docket through, and then or a veterans court, and we wound up making it a docket, and the Supreme Court came down with that guidance. And I would just say that we've reinvented that wheel, so if he's looking to do tax, I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, this is different, and I mean, the veterans docket, drug court, those are issues where services are being provided, and it's to coordinate services that are being offered. This is one that's just, it's a hyper-technical area where we don't have judges who have the experience dealing with this, who need to really understand it. This is very different from the veterans courts and the drug courts, I just would say.
What I think Senator Openshain is articulating is that in those, once somebody comes in through a veterans docket or drug court docket for different charges, the court is focused on how those services are provided to that individual and whether they should result in criminal charges or not. This one is, the issue comes, you get an assessment, you appeal that, or you file an appeal to the assessor, they deny it, it goes to the Board of Equalization, they deny it, the next step is the circuit court, which is a lot of times you're talking about a taxation issue of a couple $100, and for you to go through that circuit court process could be thousands of dollars because you have the rights that are associated with a circuit court trial. And that is very problematic. So if you have a small change, it is almost impossible to get it done.
You cannot get it done without an appraisal. So, I mean, the appraisal often is more expensive than the relief you're going to get. I mean, it's crazy.
So, all right, you have a couple individuals who would like to speak, and I think that what you hear us saying is we agree that there's an issue. What's the best way for us to try to get at a resolution to this issue?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Brian Gordon on behalf of the Apartment and Office Building Association of Metropolitan Washington and the Virginia Apartment and Management Association. As Delegate Keem referenced, this resolution was born of a stakeholder process held over the last year. with regard to the broader issues of assessment appeal reform. While we weren't able to reach consensus on other proposals, this was an area where we did find common ground in terms of we all seem to believe that this idea merited additional exploration as a means for addressing a lot of the issues that have already been raised at this dais. Just to echo the sentiments of Delegate Keem, I think it's less important to us who does the study or where the information comes from, but as long as we are able to get to that information, I think that would be very helpful. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the patron, and thank you for your time on this. Just one or two small facts just to help with this deliberation. We agree with the direction we're going. As far as having additional individuals involved, we agree with what Senator Obenshain is saying. It's nearly impossible to get from A to C, and here's the example. 0.1% of all administrative appeals filed actually are granted by the courts for counties. 0.3% make it through that same process for cities. It is virtually impossible to get there. A medium-sized factory, it's $200,000 minimum for a medium-sized factory. That's under 100 employees just to have an appraisal done. So it's oftentimes an absolute disincentive to seek relief. So we think this is the right approach, and we hope you support it.
All right, so here's where I think our options are. We could set this up as a 6-person, 3 House, 3 Senate, give 4 committee meetings that could occur between now and next year, and could bring in all the, study the options of a tax court system, or I would probably add in other alternative ways that appeals could be handled from the Board of Zoning Appeals. We can do that, or we can go in the direction, and I know the Office of the Executive Secretary is back there cringing because I asked them to stay, and they advise that they will do anything we ask them to do, but this would be a unique experience for them and not one that they've undertaken of a similar fashion in the past. So they're very conscientious and willing to come to a conclusion, but I don't know that a legislative group won't come to a better conclusion because of the individuals that will come to bear. But that's really where I see the options. I personally think that the legislative solution is better, but I'm only one individual.
I think Delegate Keene would be well suited to head that up.
Yeah, my goodness. Mr. Chair, I would go with whichever door number 1 or 2 my counsel suggests here. No, actually, I'm really fine with whichever option we go with, and whatever it takes for us to find the right information so that we can work on this sooner rather than later is fine. And again, Mr. Chairman, I'm completely mindful and respectful of the fact that the Executive Secretary's office are willing to do so, but obviously, you know, if it's a hard task for them to undertake, I don't want to put any more burdens on them either. And so to the extent that we have an appetite here among our legislative branch members, with the intent that we bring in the Department of Taxation, whoever else we need to bring in as experts, I'd be happy to.
I think if we went with a legislative solution, we could also maybe not just be limited to the tax court option, because I'm somewhat concerned that that might be a very good option in Fairfax, but or Virginia Beach, but in much of the state, it might not be an option because the way judges set, if you have more than one judge in jurisdiction, it probably is a good option. If you don't, it's probably not an option. And so do we need to come up with a hybrid system or something else? So somebody gonna make a motion, either to go with the legislative solution or this one. Senator Wagner moves that we do a substitute to this bill, same purposes, add in or other tax court systems of including study options, including everything here, and other options to resolve appeals from the Board of Zoning Appeals. And we make that a 3 House, 3 Senate. So we can at least keep some focus of the group.
Yes, sir.
Since Senator Obenshain doesn't want to head it up on the same side. I'm very disappointed.
I will say this, Mr. Chairman, what you have, including legislators, is you got a built-in group
Yes.
ready to go next session. as
No, I
opposed to-
actually
as
really
opposed to an
appreciate that
outside group
concept.
coming
We-
in to explain.
We looked at various different options, and that's the one we didn't come up with, because we thought maybe we'll find some experts outside of our legislature, but I'd like to be part of that as well.
I think the expertise needs to come from outside, but I think maybe the focus of moving it forward needs to come from here.
Thank you.
So the motion's been made for that substitute. All in favor of that, please signify by saying aye. All opposed, like sign, and that's agreed to. So anybody else from the public wish to say anything on substitute? Hearing none, Senator Wagner moves, Senator Obenshain seconds. The substitute to HJ 687 be agreed to. All in favor of that, please signify by saying aye. All opposed, like sign, and that is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And
members.
Senator Obenshain will be on the Rules Committee. They'll select our side so he can make sure he's not selected.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, that's it. So thank you all very much. We moved through that in about an hour and 20 minutes, so did pretty good. Hour and 10 minutes. With that, the committee will rise.